Oh no, I'm sorry guys. I don't know why that happened. I think it's because the power died. Um sorry if you think I've gone, and I'm very sorry if you thought that I've gone for good and I didn't come back. I'll carry on anyway. Oh, thanks for coming back to me, folks. I'm really sorry. Sorry. I don't know. I thought that the power pack was plugged into the computer, but it wasn't. Yes, I'm glad to be back too. Thanks, Vanita. Thanks for coming back, folks. Right. I am back again. Thanks, Lynn. Thanks for coming back to me. Cheers. Thanks for being patient. It's not. I don't have an assistant or somebody to read the messages. That's fine. That's fine. Right. Shall we talk about twisted seams again? Right. Thanks for coming back. Thank you. Thank you. Right. Back to this. Okay. So when I make my headbands, I like if possible to make sure that when the headband is sitting flat on my head, that there's no seam that can be seen. So when we put our elastic on, what I always do is I twist one of the halves so that the seam so that the seams are at the top and the bottom. So in this case, thanks, ladies. Thank you for coming back. I'm going to twist, I'm twisting the pink part so that the seam is going to be at the top. The seams are going to be at the top and the bottom. So now we need to think about attaching the elastic. Right, so I'm just going to have a little game. See all this elastic at the back of me there? The first person to comment and choose the colour is the colour that I will use for this headband. So fingers at the ready. Who's going to tell me which colour I should use? Which colour elastic should we put on this pink and blue creation? Pink! Sue Langford won. You got fast fingers, Sue. Okay, pink it is. Radio. I shall get some pink. Now, when you're cutting the elastic to put onto your headband, what I did for my first headband, because I wasn't quite sure how the elastic was going to behave, is it going to be too tight? Because if it's too tight, you've cut the elastic, you've stitched it on. That's a real bummer because you've got to undo the elastic, in fact, all of it, and then just cut a new piece and start again. So I would advise you, when you make your own headband for the first time, is to cut the elastic too long. So, I mean, for my head, I like 7 inches. So when I made my first one, I cut the elastic 10 inches, which I knew was just crazy too long. I mean, stupidly too long. And then stitched the two ends together and then just tried it on for fit. And then maybe when you come to stitch the elastic on, and I'll show you how to do that in a second, just do a single line of stitches, stop sewing, turn the headband right side out, put it on, see how that feels, and then just adjust as necessary. Okay, so I've got my pink bit of elastic here, and I'm going to, all right, I said 10 inches. Actually, 10 inches is ridiculous. I mean, unless you have no one's got as big a head as 10 inches. So I'm going to cut my, let's call this the experiment elastic, because this is the first one you've made. You don't know how, you don't know what the fit is going to be like. So cut your first piece of elastic 8 inches, and then I'm going to stitch onto the blue side. Choose which side of your headband is going to be the underside and the top side. I don't think it's really going to matter in most cases. Or, but maybe you fussy cutted and there's an amazing picture at the top. So obviously that would be the right side of your headband. So this is going to be the wrong side. First thing that you need to do is to get one of your pieces and fold it in half, like so. Give it a good pinch so that you've got your center point, and then get your elastic and then pop it bang in the center and stick a pin in like this, like that. And then what we're going to do, Susan Executory, I think you might have had an unfair advantage there. Okay, so we've got our elastic pinned in like so, and now you're going to fold the fabric over the elastic. There's no hard and fast way to do this, but I think that as long as the resulting end is approximately an inch long, I wouldn't have it wider than an inch though, and try and fold it reasonably neatly. So look, that makes one fold, two fold, so that makes 1, 2, 3 layers over the original elastic. Can you see that? So that's one side, and then I'm just going to repeat the procedure with the other side. And I've tried ever so carefully to ensure that the elastic is in the middle, so that either side isn't taller or shorter than the other for neatness. And then I just repeat this procedure for the other side. And you may find that the other side isn't perfect because by the time you're folding the other side, it's got other layers of fabric to contend with. So, you know, you might find that this last bit falls short. That's no big deal. It doesn't matter. It's not going to be, this is all going to be concealed. So what you should be left with is that. So I've folded all of the elastic, the fabric underneath the elastic so that all the fabric folds go to the underside of the headband. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stitch with yeah, a quarter of an inch is fine. Now I'm going to sew the first part of the elastic in properly. When I say properly, lots of forward and reverse stitches for strength. And I'm going to do that right now. Two, three, four. There. So I stitch about 4 lines, and if you wanted to, you could trim all of these raw bits because by now it's very raggedy, and you could zigzag stitch if you wanted to prevent any more fraying. But to be honest, this is all very concealed inside the wrong side of the headband, and it's not something that you would ever see unless you deliberately turned everything right side out. So look, I'll show you what I mean. So look, this is what the finished ends look like, and there's no and the only way that you're going to see the raw edges is if you turn everything wrong side out like that. And you're never ever going to be doing that unless you wanted to undo the elastic for some reason. So look, see, look, it's pretty raggedy. I haven't zigzagged those edges. This has been in the washing machine once. It's been fine. So if you wanted to, because you're fastidious and professional and so on, then by all means zigzag the raw ends. But if you didn't want to, you can't be bothered. Honestly, you'd be absolutely fine, because in no situation is the headband going to suddenly go wrong side out. It just wouldn't. And most of the time, well, relaxed, it's like that, and other times it's under tension. So you're never ever going to see those raw edges. Okay, so let's put that on because I can't bear to see what it looks like without it. Okay, right, yeah. So we've got our elastic end stitched in. Now to do the other side. Now remember, because I've let it go, you see, look, the seam has gone to the center again. And I personally, it's not wrong. You could leave it like that if you want to, but it does mean that you will see a big center seam going down the middle, which to me looks a bit yuck. So before I find out where to place my elastic, I'm going to give it a little twist to see where it would like to fall naturally, and then fold in half again to find out my center point. And then pop the elastic on. When you put the other bit of the elastic on, and can you see that the elastic is coming out from where it's been folded? It's very easy to twist it and then put it on, because you can't quite see what's going on. So before you attach the other end, make sure that the elastic hasn't gotten twisted, and that when you put it on the other side, it's not spun around. You know what I mean? Like that. You don't want it to spin around. So make sure that the elastic hasn't spun around and it's twisted. And then, just like before, pin it in position in the middle, and then pleat it again. Another tip, another insider tip. Right, so can you see that on this side, I started pleating from the left hand. So where it is, I started pleating from the left hand, because you can see that those folds are here, and then my secondary pleats came from this side. Am I making sense? You need to, when you pleat the elastic on this side, you kind of want to repeat what happened. When you pleat this side, the top, you want to repeat how you pleated on the bottom. So as far, if we're following that example, I need to start pleating on this side and then pleat on that side to mimic what I did here. I hope that makes sense. I don't think that came out very elegantly. Be sure to ask me in the comments if I didn't explain that well. It doesn't matter too much if you don't do that, but I think it just makes the pleats and the folds look a touch more attractive. It doesn't affect the functionality of the headband at all. Okay, right, so I'm pleated here. I'm just double checking. I'm just double checking that nothing is twisted, that we're all looking right on. And as I look, hang on, have I matched my? Yeah, look. Yes, look. See, I even didn't take my own advice. Look, I don't know if you can see, but ideally, what I should have is these bottom edge folds being on the top and vice versa. So, all right. If that doesn't make sense, I'll try and swap it over so that. There, that's better. Now, can you see that The top edge folds, they come from the same direction. Oh, anyway, look, we could split hairs all day, and the hairs are just growing longer and longer. So let's stop doing that and get on with it. Oh, there comes the power pack undone again. Bear with me a sec. Scoop, that's because you're lying on it, my love. Don't lie on the battery. Don't lie on the battery, all of the people in the computer will go away. And they'll wonder what on earth I'm up to. You can lie there, lovey. I don't think he understands a word that I'm saying. But that's okay. We do have an understanding of sorts. Okay, right. Finally ready to stitch the last bit in. Okay, right. So this is how it should look so far. We're almost finished. All you need to do is to turn everything the right side out. So that's just a simple case of jiggling around with the fabric, pulling on the elastic ends, and there you go. One headband, da-da-da! Now, did that all make sense? This is what it looks like on the underside. Now, I think that this elastic is too big. So let's just say that that was your experimental piece. When you're making the headband for the first time, remember when you stitch the elastic on the second side, just do one row of stitches, take it off the machine, put it on your head, try it for size, and then adjust until you're happy. And then when you're happy, then stitch 4 lines of stitches in forward and reverse, and then you're good to go. Okay, so we wanted to talk about asymmetric side parting headbands. So because it's very, very easy to do. Let me just have a quick scroll and make sure no one's asking me. Oh, good. Yes, Scoof can come on the camera for sure. I will do in a sec. Can we see? Yes, you can, Julie. Yeah, yes, Carol. 8 inches of elastic for your first try. And I'm as sure as damn it that will be too long, but that's fine because obviously too long is far easier to deal with than too short. Jennifer, hi Lisa, asked if you could make it thinner. Can you? Yes, you absolutely can. So now the headband is finished, I'm going to have a quick talk about fullness. So for the adult, I have said that it is 20 by 8.5. But let's just say I like for my headbands to have a bit of a Carmen Miranda. I like my headbands to be quite full. I love the pleating, and I like twisting it around, and I like to have a big old knot. That's just me. But some people, they might prefer to have just to have it thinner, that they don't want such a full headband. If you want a headband that's not so full, I would experiment with anything. Well, a child 17 to 7.5 makes a headband for me that is a little bit too skinny, but looks perfectly fine. So if you wanted a headband that's not as full, I would say anything from 17 and 18 is going to give you a headband that's not as full. And then for I'd go for 9 inches. So if you want something that's not as full, I would try something like 18 by 8.5 would give you an adult headband that's not as full, not as poofy. But for me, I really like the fullness. I really like the twisting, and I really like the folds, and I really like the poofiness. And this is 8.5 by 10, and I'll put this one on. And as you can see, that is pretty generous, actually. I think to be honest with you, if you were to you wouldn't find this in the shop, because actually it's a lot of fabric. It's quite generous, and for me that's exactly what I'd want. Maybe you wouldn't find this in a shop because it's a lot of fabric, and it's going to cost them more to produce and cost them more to sell. So possibly that's why in a shop you'll find something that's a bit more, I don't want to say on the mean side, but maybe a little bit more on the modest side. But for me, I want it to be a bit, wow, look, I've got a Carmen Miranda headband on. So that's exactly what 20 by 8.5 is going to give you. Does that make sense? Okay, just reading some of your messages. Okay, well, to make a asymmetric headband, let's say we're working on the principle of your fabric pieces being both 20 inches long. So that's 40 inches in total. So to make something asymmetric, all you would do is you make one piece longer than the other piece, and providing that both pieces total 40 inches, you're good to go. So I can't remember exactly what this. I think if I remember correctly, the long. There you go. That's quite clear, isn't it? See, you can see how one half is visibly longer, and you can see it's approximately 2 inches. If I remember correctly, this bottom bit was 22 inches, whereas the top bit was 18. So have a play around. As long as both your pieces, when put end to end, measure 40 inches, you can play with the proportions in any way that you please. I think that makes sense, yeah? All right, unless you've got any more questions, folks, I think that's everything. If you have any more questions, let me know and I'll answer them now. Oh, you wanted Scoop. Scoop! Oh, hello, love. Can you come up, pop on my leg, bub? I know, it's quite cool under the table, isn't it? I've got some friends who want to say hello to you. Hello, boy. Oh, he's so hot, bless him. So he's going to have his hair cut next Sunday because he's roasting. We can only take him out early in the morning, and even then, understandably, he prefers to be under trees or walk on the cool pavement. Like, he's even shaggier than I am, but I don't think he'd look good in a hairband. Probably might like to eat a hairband. I don't think he'd like to wear one. He's pretty dozy now. We took him for a long walk this morning. He was chasing our frisbee. Mabel's very good at frisbee. Luckily, he didn't land on the scoop, but he did try chasing it a lot, so he's still pretty tired. Welcome, Alice. Welcome, Yvonne. Suzanne wants to know how did I enclose the elastic? All right, Scoob, I'm just going to put you down, chickadee. Do you want to go back to lying onto the table? Okay, all right then, you're gone. There you go. All right, Suzanne. How did I enclose the elastic? So, Suzanne, you don't need to enclose the elastic really, because there are so many pleats and folds in the fabric that by the time, so look, so the elastic is sewn to the middle of the rectangle pieces, and then the rectangle pieces are concertinaed one half at a time. So one half gets concertinaed over the elastic, and then the other half gets concertinaed over the elastic, and then the resulting width is approximately 1 inch. And then if you want to, after stowing in forward and reverse about 4 times, if you want to, you can then go and zigzag the stitches. But personally, I don't think it's necessary, because by the time you've turned the headband, right side out, all of that those pleats and layers of fabric hide the raw stitching, and that you would never, and that you don't ever get to see the elastic. Now, if you wanted to sell these headbands, and I have seen them for sale on Etsy, usually going anything from £12 to £15. If I were making to sell, I personally think it's a good idea. Lots of people need headbands. They're very quick to put together. I would zigzag stitch the ends. Just because it's nice. But like I say, there's no reason that these raw edges are ever going to be seen unless you wanted to turn them right side out. And why would you want to be turning them right side out? You wouldn't need to. So, but yeah, if you were selling them, I would trim off all the raggedy bits and I would zigzag stitch the ends, and then that's fine. And there's no top stitching that needs to be done. I think that if you'd made a few of these, which I have by now, you could make them 15-20 minutes. If you were doing production sewing, even less, I guess. Lee, can I try the one that I made on? Yes, certainly I can. So this one is where the knot is bang on the center. And it looks like that. What do you think, folks? What do you think? Don't know why. It's looking as though the knot is not in the middle. But the knot is in the middle. Of course the knot is in the middle. I will say, when I've seen these in Etsy, no one sells them with a side parting, which I think it's a bit of a missed opportunity, because I have a side parting, and to me that looks ever so slightly weird, because given the choice, if I was going to the trouble, I really like having a little bit of my fringe stick out. It's just something that I like, and then when the knot is in the middle, I don't think that looks right. Just going to see some more. Welcome, Nancy. Zoom meetings will be better looking. Super sweet. Thank you. Katie wants to know what make he is. He's a Shih Tzu, which is half Shih Tzu, half Poodle. They make really lovely family dogs, but they love their people, so they don't do very well being alone. Welcome, Diane. It was a pleasure. Oh, thanks, Denise. That's very nice of you to say so. I'm glad you thought the instructions were clear. Thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, okay, Suzanne. Excellent that you understood. Cool. Carol, what width elastic did I use? I used 15 centimeter. I think that's perfect because 15 centimeter is strong enough for the job. It's not too bulky so that you can really feel it under your head. And any thinner, then it might feel a bit pinchy, not sit so well. So I think 15 millimeters is perfect. Julie, if I make a baby size one, do I still sew with a 3-inch line to start? That's a good question. I think if I was making a baby one, I might a baby one in jersey elastic would be really nice. And then because you're making all of the proportions smaller, I would try with a 2-inch hole. Everything smaller, obviously, everything smaller, with a 2-inch hole. And I might try some jersey fabric because this would also work well in jersey. That's excellent. It's really nice. Oh, thanks, Laurie. As ever. Okay, right. I think that's everything. think I've answered all your questions. I'll go back. I'll go back later. And if there's anything that I haven't covered or any questions, I'll answer in your comments later on. And if you do make any headbands, I'd love to see them. So please share them with me. I'd love to have a gander at your headbands. Who's going to make one first? Right, yeah, I think that's everything. Welcome, Julie. Absolutely welcome. Oh, that's really lovely of you to say, Katie. Thank you very, very much. Oh yes, Sue, a Liberty one would be yum yum. Sadly, I only had enough Liberty for one half. But what I might do is I might do Liberty one side. Oh yes, because I've got the Liberty oranges. I don't know if you know the one I mean. It's teal on the back and there's oranges on it. And so I can find an orange, plain orange piece to do a contrast. That would look nice. Jenny, the one that I did for the my daughter, it seemed that yes, it was Jenny. Yes, um, Mabel had Mabel had one that was 17 by 7.5, and my one was 18 by 8.5. But I've since decided that for me, because it's not full enough, because I want something bit bigger, fuller, bushier, I've gone for 20 by 8.5. But there's no right and wrong. It's a good idea if you're making one for the first time, just to use two scrap pieces, and then once you find a size that you really like, then take it from there, because they really are so quick to make that if you screw up on your first one, or you just use two scrap pieces just to find your ideal fullness and ideal width, it's worth doing. So yeah, you're right, Jenny. The ones I made originally, the ones in the picture, they were definitely smaller. But I would say that 17 by 7.5 for a maybe six to 10 year old is pretty perfect, I would think. Oh yes, and I used poplin fabric, which is slightly thinner than quilt weight, so that might be worth mentioning too. Oh yes, I'd love to see one, Jenny. Welcome, Lee, anytime. Thanks, Diane. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Dawn. Right, I think that's everything. Until next time, I hope you have a really lovely rest of Sunday. And yeah, do share your headbands with us either on You Handbag or So Crazy Girls or SQ fans, all in the usual places. Yeah, I'd love to see them. All right, I'm just going to go back and have a scan through your comments. Thank you so much for watching with me on this lovely hot sunny day. Bye.